Okay. Oh, oh, did I figure it out? Poof, 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 poof. Uh-huh. And now, it doesn't freak out. Huh. Okay, so I'm gonna have to remember that, and that is going to be a problem. I'm gonna have to note that down somewhere for future reference. Okay, alright, well, I guess proceed. I'm gonna operate on the assumption that no mic at all was working for the first 30 whatever minutes, which is painful because I don't like listening to the sound of my own voice. But I'm committed, and so I will repeat myself. So we are back. As you can see, I have moved along with the assault intercessors. These are just a handful of various starter box miniatures. I believe that the assault intercessors came with the Indomitus box. One of the Indomitus boxes. That's what I remember, at least. Hey, what's up? Oh, okay. That's probably a good idea, if you don't mind. Yeah, I bet she'll have some fun over there with her cousin. If there's not stuff that, has to be separated, I can take care of it. I don't know how long I'll be doing this, but... Alright. Whatever works for you. Yes. So assault intercessors, probably from the Indomitus box. Who can say for sure? Not me. But yes, during the downtime, since the first test stream, which I guess this is now the second test stream since we're still figuring things out, I did make some progress on this squad. Laid down a bunch of base colors for them. I just have a really strong tendency like to tilt the model way like this, and of course when I do that, it's not visible. Maybe I can just... I cannot just. So, deal with it. So yeah, what I'm hoping to accomplish is put down the bone white color on all of these guys, and maybe some metallics. Their bolters and chain swords and such. If I'm feeling really lucky, maybe I'll get to the gold. I don't anticipate that being the case, though. Yeah, I said a bunch of stuff about my my process here, my eternal struggle with the consistency of the paint, especially with these light colors. And honestly, the vibe I'm getting right now is that this brown is probably still too dark to really be layering such a bright color over. But it is what it is. But honestly, the bulk of what I talked about while the microphone was not microphoning was kind of one of the concepts that I had for something that might help distinguish my my little space here, my little channel from others, which was some storytelling, since, as I mentioned in the first stream, I'm very fond of kind of the whole homebrew process of creating my own factions and characters and stories within the setting. Honestly, probably my favorite, certainly at least one of my favorite things about the hobby, but quite possibly my favorite. I just really like that that creative outlet for it. So even though I am using official factions for these starter box Marines, I still wanted to give them a little bit of explanation, some reason for banding together. Because I think I talked about this in the previous stream, but my plan for these starter box Marines is I'm going to do them in a couple of different schemes. They're not all going to be Blood Ravens. Because partly I just want to get some more practice before moving on to nicer and more detailed models. Yes, I also lamented the camera setup and how if I'm not twisting the model out of sight, I'm constantly bumping it with my knuckles. Don't know how evident that is, but I'm sure there's some kind of alternative that I gotta find. But yeah, so these starter box Marines will come from, I'm thinking, 3 different chapters. The Blood Ravens, as seen here. And I don't remember the entire composition of that box. I know that there's these Assault Intercessors, there's a handful of Terminators, there is, I believe, a Terminator Captain, there are 1 or 2 lieutenants. I can only think of one for sure, which is the Leviathan lieutenant with the knives. But what I recall for sure, there's those Terminators with their leader. There's a lieutenant who's kind of a scout guy. There are, of course, these assault intercessors. There are 10, I believe, Infernus Marines, guys packing flamethrowers. And there are three bikers, which I believe are outriders in the current codex. I'm very out of practice with Marines, if you can't tell. There's also a dreadnought, a ballistic dreadnought, I think. So I haven't decided what every model is going to be, but I know that the assault intercessors here, obviously Blood Ravens, and then the Infernus Marines are going to be salamanders. Those have always been one of my favorite chapters. And then I'm going to have the biker squad that will actually be the first of the homebrew forces that I'll paint, which will be the Emperor's Huntsmen. So I wanted to have a justification, a reason for these Marines uniting in battle. And I've got, a bunch of homebrew plans already for the Necrons and the Tyranids, and so I figure I ought to be able to just tie everybody together from the starter boxes into kind of a little narrative. It's probably not going to be something that I take much farther beyond the starter sets here, but it's fun just to have anyway, just to give everybody a little bit of story so that they can all be heroes. And what I arrived at for the Blood Ravens, which they get the first crack because they're the ones that I'm working on first. I think I'll probably keep it to whichever faction I'm working on at the moment will get their little story update. So for the Blood Ravens, I am only kind of vaguely familiar with all of the Blood Raven lore after Dawn of War Dark Crusade, because that was the last. I did play Dawn of War Soulstorm, but that did not stick with me quite like Dark Crusade did. But I did a little review, so I'd be not spouting off misinformation about what the Blood Ravens get up to, because, Dark Crusade, wow, that was a long time ago. And both in real life and in terms of the Warhammer setting. A lot has changed. But what it boils down to is the Blood Ravens had a series of kind of successively more brutal campaigns that cost them quite dearly. As I recall, almost half of the chapter was destroyed at one point. And right as they had decided to, and at this point this is official material. This isn't stuff that I made up. So this is recap, and I'll tell you when I take the reins. But right as they started to rebuild, the Great Rift happened. The titanic warp storm that split the galaxy in half, separating the Imperium into two, and the Blood Ravens found themselves in Imperium Nihilus, the Dark Imperium, which was cut off from Terra, from Earth, from the Emperor, and basically put in a position where they have to fend completely for themselves, which was rough because the birth of the Great Rift caused a lot of literal and figurative chaos that had to be dealt with. And man, I am making this worse and worse. I thought that I had this bone white thinned down properly, and now it's not cooperating. Okay, yeah. So, the Great Rift happens, and then shortly thereafter, or roughly the same time, is when the Mechanicum Archmagos Belisarius Call introduces the Primaris Space Marine to the galaxy, and the Blood Ravens are very, very fortunate that a detachment of, I want to say, Grey Knights, I don't remember, that doesn't sound right just because Grey Knights are kind of haters, but somebody shows up and has managed to bring don't want that. Somebody shows up and has managed to bring the Primaris technology to the Blood Angels. So they are, along with, countless other chapters, able to update their force with these bigger, better, deadlier Space Marines. And that is all a matter of fact. Nothing about the The Blood Raven lore has really moved much beyond that, as far as I know. Although, I may have mentioned this in the last stream, but I think that I heard a rumor, or what I should say is that there have been some leaks that have led people to believe that there is a new Dawn of War coming, which, if true, will almost certainly involve the Blood Angels. I mean, the Blood Ravens. So, who knows? Maybe we are really, really close to a new 40k strategy game featuring a new Blood Raven story. How cool would that be? In the meantime, though, here is the beginnings of my Blood Raven story, which is just basically that with the Blood Ravens constantly trying to reinforce their sort of tenuous grip of their home sector, which is called Corianis or something like that. I mean, that's what it's called. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but all of the letters that I used are present in the sound that I just made. And so the chapter deploys detachments all across their region of space, hoping to keep the forces of chaos and the constant orc incursions at bay, while they resupply and rearm with all of this new Primaris technology. Did I get everything on this guy? I feel like that went quick. And we're going to have to do a couple of passes anyway, so. And so, detachments from the Blood Ravens are scattered all across the region, trying to put out flames and buy time and space for Imperial forces and the Blood Ravens themselves to properly reinforce and create a line in the sand to hold on to their territory. And as they're doing so, they receive word of a series of heavy Necron incursions in the region. And so a scouting mission is dispatched to gauge the threat. And the scouts never come back. They wait for survivors, they wait for messages, but nothing returns. And so, in Space Marine fashion, they put together a larger force and send another one. And there is a lengthy delay, but eventually this second scouting mission does report back. Unfortunately, what they report is a full-scale Necron invasion in a neighboring sector. and this invasion is the reason for the disappearance of their first scouting party, of course. They were caught out and destroyed before they could complete their mission. But the second party has managed to move in behind the Necron force, and they report that the Necrons are scouring worlds entirely of life, and this seems to be in an effort to either protect or conceal or both massive excavation efforts on these conquered worlds. The scouts also report that the Necron invasion is being stalled slightly by a combined force of Space Marines from other chapters. Does this guy have? Yeah. I think they must all have a purity seal on them somewhere. Anyway, the scouts report that a combined force of Space Marines from other chapters are coordinating a defense from the beleaguered Imperial worlds in the path of this invasion. And those chapters are the Salamanders and the Emperor's Huntsmen. And not least of all because this invasion is pointed towards the Corianis sector, the Blood Ravens respond with a mobilization. They order the scouts to join the defense, while reinforcements from the Blood Ravens companies that have been fully upgraded with Primaris technology are mobilized to reinforce them. And so the scouts went and put my finger in it. The scouts joined the defense, and among them are these assault intercessors of Squad Aurora, who are led by Sergeant Soluk, who is this fellow right here. He's got the plasma pistol, robot arm from his previous campaigns. He's got his little shield that has a specific name that I don't know. But yeah, so that's the story so far for these guys. So I will continue to give a little thought to Squad Aurora and all of the other models that are going to be coming out of the starter boxes and who they are to this emerging campaign. My personal forecast, as I already mentioned, we've got these guys who are obviously Blood Ravens. We've got the Infernus flamethrower marines, who will be the fitting salamanders, and the outriders, who will be Emperor's huntsmen. I'm thinking that I will probably have the Terminators and the Dreadnought also be Blood Ravens, and sort of have them be the reinforcements that arrive from Blood Angels space. I'm sorry, Blood Ravens. I'm gonna keep making that mistake non-stop. Even though I really like the Blood Ravens, it's just such an easy mix-up. Both names just roll right off the tongue. Yeah, so the lieutenant, who's obviously got kind of a scout vibe to him, and the Terminators and the Dreadnought, they're all going to be Blood Ravens, I think. Also, because I don't like red's not my favorite color, but I do really like this scheme, and I'm not gonna have a lot of opportunity to paint in red with the other armies once I get them going. So I kind of want to get a little mileage out of it before moving on to those. So the way that I see it, these Blood Ravens and the Salamanders, those are going to be probably the only official factions that I'll use. The Huntsmen and the Necrons are going to be homebrew. The Tyranids, for sure, I don't know if I see them as being part of this campaign. It's kind of like a why not thing. Like, that's just how Warhammer is, you know. Why not have another crazed group of murderers show up? But I'm gonna make an effort so that whether they're official factions or my homebrews, they get decent little histories. So I don't know how close I'll feel like the intercessors are to being done this session or next. Probably not that close, really, because I haven't done any of the metallic on them, and then there will be shading and some highlighting. I'm trying not to get too in the weeds with these guys, since I'd like to be able to put most of the attention on the really fancy models. Completely lost my train of thought just there. Oh, yes. Yeah, so probably not going to finish the intercessors in this session. And so, so here's the thing. I'm not going to not work on them when, in between streams, like getting their base coats and such on. that was all between streams, and I'm going to keep doing that. So I don't know what kind of progress I will make between streams, but I kind of expect that we'll come back to at least one more session working on the assault intercessors, at which time I can share some more about Squad Aurora and Sergeant Solok. The Sarge. But that's what I've got for now. And for now, I'm honestly okay with scooting on to another color. Like some gunmetal, I think. I want to do some gunmetal because I feel like that's what's gonna really start making them feel presentable, you know, ready to go on a tabletop, duke it out with somebody. Ugh, my back. Jiminy Christmas. There was something else that I needed to do on this guy too. I left him out. I think I just wanted to go and put another pass of the white wash. I didn't put any in his ribs, and I think that another pass on the other spots, the eyes, would be appropriate. I also realized that a lot of Necron armies, they'll do kind of a... Oh, he's like so far away. They'll do like a detail color here on the chest. They've got the I think the word is cartouche. This the emblem in this, you know, style on their chest. I think I'd like to do something like that, but I don't know for sure what that will be yet. I'm also not 100% sold on this. I believe this is just flat gunmetal on this guy. Part of me wants to go for a darker metallic. So, we'll have to see. I think that when we get over, I might leave him sort of in that state for now, and not mess with him until we bust out some of the other ones, and then we can do some comparison work. Oh, that is... this brown is like gone. My wet palette is starting to dry a little. So let's try and revitalize things a little. Okay, I'm not gonna fight with the brown right now. The only spot that I think is missing it is the pauldrons on that first marine. This is so much more talking than I normally do in a week. So, don't mind me if I go quiet for a bit. Yeah, so we're just missing the brown in that one spot on that one guy. I think it's fine if it waits. That one tiny drop of gunmetal is probably not going to get me far, so let's go ahead and do a little bit more. Let's see, this is airbrush paint, so hopefully we can get by without thinning it a whole bunch. Can just sit on the wet palette and be good. So let's go back to this first ombre, and we're gonna do gunmetal on the gun, of course. Feel like chances are pretty good that they've got like custom grips. That's what I would expect from Space Marine warrior monks. Like, maybe there's not a whole ton of weapon personalization going on. That's probably part of the military mindset, but you know, for comfort and ease of use, some non-metallic custom grips seems pretty natural. Then again, they're going to be holding the guns in power armored fists, so it's not like you're accounting for a really unique grip, so maybe not. All that to say, I don't think that I'll leave the pistol grips in gunmetal, but I'm gonna pick them out that way right now, just so that they are visible. Also, didn't even really think about it. I am normally, well, it's hard to say what's normal for me because I haven't done it in so long, but my personal opinion is that drilled barrels are ideal, but I didn't really think about it with these starter box models, and I don't think that I'm going to bother going back. Not on camera. Not on camera again. Come down here. Yeah. Probably not going to go back to drill barrels on them. That will just be a lot of mess, a lot of work for what are ultimately not going to be my main use models. Hopefully. but there's no reason that I can't go back at any old time and drill out some barrels. Now, I'm not sure. I think we'll do this casing in gunmetal as well. I don't know why it's so hard to decide. Straight up the handle. What a view. Sorry. I'll find a better camera setup. I don't know what it will be, but I'll figure something out. I don't know what the middle ground is between having, you know, the camera on the model and not in my way. Alright, so gunmetal wise, I think that's all for this dude. I don't know what else we would need to pick out. Let's see if I can get in here. Boom. Love it. Alright. You can go and sit here. We're going to come back to that guy because I had initially painted the upper casing of his bolter in the same red as his armor, thinking to myself, I know that the bottom will be gunmetal and the top must be a color because I have painted this black primer and it must be covered up with something that isn't black. But then I realized, oh yeah, tons of Space Marine bits are just black. There's no reason that the case of the bolt pistol can't be black as well. And I prefer that. I don't really care for having guns painted up in like livery. Like there's being a warrior monk and then there's painting your gun to match your armor. That's a little much for me. So I will just consider it standard issue black, and when the time comes we'll go back to that guy, our very first test boy, paint his casing black as well. It's so satisfying that just, you know, you lay the colors on one at a time, and with each one, even if it's just a small difference, like some metal teeth on a chainsword, the model just starts to feel that much more alive. Like, this one step is enough that I'm looking at these first two guys and I'm like, oh yes, these are Space Marines. These are the Emperor's Angels of Death. And they are not happy. Which I suppose is probably a pretty subjective term for them. You know, it qualifies as happiness when you are a hyper-indoctrinated super soldier who has been doing nothing but make war for centuries. Oh, totally forgot the pommel on the last guy, so we'll have to go back and grab that. I like the gunmetal for the casing of the chainsword. I'm not totally sold on it though for the hilt or the pommel. I mean, I'm gonna put it on there so there's something there right now, but kind of feel like something else would be more appropriate. Alright. Let's grab your brother. But before we do, let's go ahead and put some more silver here. It has been so long since I've done this, but it really is one of my favorite parts of this hobby. It's just preceded by some of my least favorite parts. I like kit bashing. I don't care so much for the assembly. I like painting, but the setup and the priming are such a drag. I like the gaming, but I don't like presenting a bunch of gray unpainted minis. And so the excuses stack up and get in the way. Can't even count how many times I reorganized and cleaned this desk, saying to myself, I have to get it clean enough that I will be comfortable sitting here for hours moving paint around. And really it didn't need that much effort, which isn't to say it wasn't helpful, you know. My last not exactly a piece of procrastination, because I did do the stream last week, but between then and now I undertook one more project to replace the struts on my light dome. Before, they were made out of a bunch of cable hiders. And there's like two-part cable hiders that you can slide one piece off so that you can add or remove cables to hide. And I had just basically slid them so that each one was partially locking onto another one, and then I duct taped the hell out of that, and then bent that into a vague arc shape. And it got the job done. It was not very stable. I'm not sure exactly what kept me from a more normal solution, because the upgrade was I literally just Googled metal strips, and Lowe's had them up to 8 feet in length, which is exactly what I needed. And I ordered 2 of them for pickup, and it was the work of, I don't know, half an hour tops to pull the light strips off the old dome and use some double-sided adhesive to stick them to the metal strips, which are now installed and much more stable and a little bit more future-proof, I think. So now there are no excuses, which is, you know, why I'm doing this. Eventually I did get rid of all of my excuses, so that the only thing left to do was sit down and do it. I really hope there's not some other super obvious part of their kit that should be gunmetal. On other miniatures, I know I've seen I know I've seen this disc on their backs picked out as metallic. I don't think I'm gonna do that. Obviously the chest will be, but that's gonna be in gold, not gunmetal. So I think I'm getting it all. Let's see. This guy's got a big old splotch of red on his gun casing. To fix that up. The Space Marines were definitely my favorite faction when I first started the game. Who knows? Well, no, that's not true, because I'm pretty sure I started with Tau. But at some point along the way, they definitely became my favorite faction. And they were for a long time. I would not say that they are now, but I do still really enjoy them for their versatility in terms of, well, everything. You know, their designs, their lore. You can have them be just about anything you can imagine, and without much difficulty find a way to justify it. Not 100% sure on the breakdown of colors for the plasma pistol, so I'm just gonna wing it here, and we can come back later to cover up some of the gunmetal if we don't want it. Also, missed some. His chainsword, completely forgot. Sergeant Solak. I'm wagering that the sergeant volunteered, having confronted the Necrons before in the past, and knowing what kind of threat they can pose. Matter of fact, there's a pretty good chance that he got that shiny metal arm of his from fighting the Necrons. One of the things that I'm not super fond about in this this iteration of the setting with the Primaris Marines is this notion of Actually, I think they changed it at some point. It used to be, when Primaris first came out, it used to be that a regular Marine attempting to, quote-unquote, cross the Rubicon and become a Primaris Marine had only like a 33% chance of success and a 66% chance of death. And I think that they added something to the lore shortly afterwards where they stabilized the process or something, and the odds of survival skyrocketed. Which, good on one hand. On the other hand, stick to your guns. Like, if you want it to be risky, then make it risky. But I appreciate that happened, though, because otherwise it's hard to look at your models and be like, Sergeant Solak, who fought in the campaign on Cronus against the combined forces of, well, they weren't combined, but the arrayed armies of 7 alien factions, or 6, whatever, and crossed the Rubicon Primaris. It just becomes increasingly improbable. But if they fix their process and suddenly survival rates go way up, then there's no reason that Sergeant Solak wouldn't have been part of that. Although, if we're just looking at things statistically, a tremendous portion of the Blood Ravens have just been destroyed. So, who knows how likely it is that any given Marine has been around for that long, when we know that half of them died before the Great Rift. Meaning that they've now had to be replaced with younger, more inexperienced Marines. But, you give the younger, more inexperienced Marines to the handful of older surviving Marines, like good old Sergeant Solak here. I'm not 100% sold on that pronunciation either. Not sure what'll be better. Solak? I kinda like Solak more. Sergeant Solak. Better flow. Alright. So all the grindy bits of your chainsword. And what did we forget? This guy's chainsword. I really liked that notion that I hadn't really given much thought from Space Marine 2, where each squad has their own code name, and that they're not all crazy 40,000 space names. It's just like, oh, it's Viridian. Oh, these guys are Aurora. Because it's some mental bandwidth trying to make up these names that you can take seriously. Slashy. So I anticipate that after the intercessors are done, these intercessors, because I think there might be more, I will do the Infernus Marines, Salamanders next. Don't quote me on that, but that's just how I envision things progressing. When I do the Salamanders, I'm probably going to spend some more time on the base coating. I want to try doing more zenithal shading on them. I've done that in the past, but I think that it's usually come out just really mild, so much that you can't really tell. And I kind of want to do it really starkly on the salamanders. Try to kind of get across the idea that they are unloading with these Pyre Blaster flamers and illuminating themselves from the front. So we'll see if I can achieve any of that at all, with or without the base coat sprays. I'm pretty sure that I have one of those file packages from Deadly Print Studios that has flamethrower effects in it. So it might be fun to try and print some of those off and stick them to the front. Okay. Alright, that is everybody's gunmetal. Really sorted out. Alright, I only budgeted for 2 hours of streaming, but I'm not miserable yet, so I'm going to continue. Pretty sure this brown is still toast. And it's looking like the bone white is also not staying very fresh. So we're going to need to lay down some more. Yeah, because we need at least another pass of bone white on everybody. we need passive bone white on everyone. We want to update that guy's bolt pistol to black. I mean, after that, there's not much left besides getting into the gold bits. It's the gold, and then we'll play around with the washes a little bit to see how the shading goes. Gosh, that is so much more beastly brown than was necessary. These 2 drops there. So let's see, we'll get the brown, then do the black. Oh, I completely forgot. I feel like I should do the brown before trying to get that second pass of bone white. Or third, I don't know. Whatever round I'm on now. Alright, this was experiment number 1. We just want to go in here and put down a coat of brown. All on the pauldron rim here. Ooh. This is going to be a little test of steadiness. Like to not get it all over the red and the bone white that's already there. See if I can get in here at the inside. The other thing I've yet to figure out is deciding how to format this stuff to put on YouTube. I do want to make sure that the video worthy stuff is on there. Especially the story segments. Right now it's just very informal, and so I'm not sure how well that's going to hold up. Just because it's a different color, it's just one more contrast, it already starts to look natural. Like, there's no reason at all I couldn't just call it a day for these guys and be like, you know, every part of them is picked out. You can pick one up, take a look at it, and be like, oh yeah, there's that, this, that. And if there's an exception right now, it's the Under Armour. But that will get focused down in the shading process. So that was guy number 1, who's got his brown layer on now, his pauldrons. Let's go back to the rest of the squad. Get another pass of the white. That's not really still fluid. So let's add a little bit more. This was the one that was having trouble squeezing out. Hope that helps. Oof. Wow. Interesting. Oh, wow. Some of these dropper bottles really need a cleaning, thorough cleaning. I think honestly the lids more than the bottles themselves. There we go. I think one more pass. Put this back up here. Things are starting to get uncomfortable for my nethers. Suppose the brightness on the shoulder pads will come down when I do shading. I'm not very well, no, I have some Nuln oil, some actual Citadel Nuln oil, because I've used Vallejo's black shade ink stuff in the past and was not impressed. Mine is pretty old. Maybe they've changed their formula since then, but I found it very spotty. It did not like just going into crevices and pooling properly. It would just kind of pick wherever it wanted. Which wasn't a good look. So, I'm not certain that I just want to go blasting shades all over the whole model. At the same time, I find that if you try to spot specific areas, it can end up looking very uneven, where you've darkened one part of the model to a nice degree, and in turn you've gone back and highlighted, and then a part that you didn't looks kind of flat because it didn't get that same attention. So I'm not sure what the best approach is going to be, but we'll wing it, find out. Yeah, that looks much better. There's probably one of those dock things that will tell me if anybody joins. Still trying to get familiar with OBS and all that other junk. Another reason for procrastination. I used to just be able to do everything out of the Twitch service, Twitch Studio or whatever it was called. It's very convenient, but those days are gone. Okay. Come here. Purity seal down here. It's already pretty solidly covered though. feel like the rate is pretty good for what I'm working with here. I've got 5 intersensors, mostly 4 because I kind of did all the work on one of them, but I don't think it would change a whole lot. You give or take 1 intercessor in a lineup and kind of smash through 1 color at a time. Two sessions, 3 sessions, you've got a highly presentable squad. Some squads have some more guys, some squads have less. The Infernus Marines are a big squad, they're 10 guys. So, count maybe 6 sessions for the whole squad. I guess it'll depend on how this base coat experiment goes. Because with all of these guys, I hand painted the base coat on. Thinned the red, painted it all, 2 thin coats and all that. But for this Infernus experiment, basically just going to be relying on airbrush. With which I am not tremendously proficient. Gets the job done for priming, but we'll see when it comes to something a little bit more demanding. This just looks great no matter what I do. So pass on your purity seal here. Ta-da. And the Sarge. It's so hard not to refer to them as just Sarge, because, you know, a Space Marine would probably never do that. That's very much like a Imperial Guard infantry trooper type thing. Warrior monks are going to be all proper about it. Sergeant this, lieutenant that. I'd also like to take advantage of these nice bright chainsword colors to try some blood splatter effects. Yeah, I think maybe on the next batch, if I'm trying to do this brown again, I think I have a lighter shade that might work better. I don't know if this is light enough to support the build up. I mean, it's had to be, but it might be easier to get a clean coverage of the brown and in turn the bone white if we have a lighter brown to start with. Alright, stand up, boys. Okay, so I think I want to do the black next before I get too much further. Also, this guy's arm is really dark. I don't know if he got his proper second pass of the red. One of the issues, I guess, caused by the problem that I'm having with getting the right paint consistency is if I get it wrong, which I think what happened here was it was far too thin, then it just kind of disappears on the guy without actually adding color. So now I gotta go over it, and I don't know if it's gonna look any good. But it'll have to do. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Always whacking the camera. There's only so much I can do. Now with the stronger dome, there's a chance maybe I can set something up where the camera's coming from above. But I'd be worried that it would mess with the light to do that. So I don't know if that'll be worth the effort. Ooh, my back. See here. Trying to make sure the wet palette stays Word palette. Alright, so let's put the gunmetal back. Green glaze. Yeah, right. Heavy charcoal, extra opaque. If there's any paint that has just died in the pot, it'll be this one. It's always absurdly thick. I want to do something for the bases too. I don't like basing. That's actually one of my least favorite things. But I also don't like having flat blank bases. And usually I'm pretty content keeping it real simple. You know, it makes sense to me. 99% of Warhammer battles are probably going to be fought in some kind of urban environment. So, you know, just a bunch of gravel and some broken slabs of concrete or something is enough. Excuse me. But, well, not really. No buts. I think that's what looks best and what makes the most sense. Like, I don't know why anybody going to war in the 41st millennium is going to be fighting over a grassy knoll. So that tends to make basing a little easier, but no matter how easy, it's not super simple when the model's already painted. There. His gun's a little bit different than everyone else's. It's dark, dark, dark gray instead of black. Not real concerned about it. I mean, that honestly might be it for this session. Everybody's now got their bone white laid down, got their gunmetal. I'm not sure. I want to try plasma effects for sure. That's one of the reasons I started with the Space Marines as opposed to somebody else, is because the other factions are probably going to involve some specialized color techniques, and these guys are mostly just flat colors. But even these guys have some things going for them, like plasma effects, eyes. That will be an interesting challenge. I have no idea what color to use. I might just do a nice basic sort of fiery red-orange. But I've never really tried, certainly never accomplished that kind of effect before. So we'll see if I can even get close. I'm just going to put down the white that we're going to need, and then I'll call it. The next step, maybe off stream, will be probably the gold, because I think you want to have kind of all of the base colors down before you start doing shading, especially if you're going to do kind of drenching. I really have no idea how I'm going to approach it. And that is pretty consistent, but once it dries it'll be barely visible, so it definitely will need a couple passes. A little bit on this side. I really hope that it's true that Dawn of War is coming back. With the caveat that I hope that it's coming back in the form that it had at the beginning. The first Dawn of War up to Dark Crusade, and to a lesser extent Soulstorm, was perfect. I think the only thing that I would have wanted more would be just a better middle ground between the Dark Crusade map cheese and the Soulstorm full reset. Like, it definitely kind of killed the challenge of Dark Crusade, that you could just build a build your base across the entire map, and then the next time you went to defend it, all that infrastructure was still there. Not very difficult. There we go. Alright, there are one, there's two, there's Alright, so now we've got a nice strong white base inside the plasma gun to build off of. I'm not going to try to do the eyes right now. I'd like to leave those until towards the very end. But we can come back to this guy. Well, come here. Get on the stand. Take this stand, warrior. Also, the all-time banger of a soundtrack that Dark Crusade had. Just in one go, perfectly captured the relentless menace of the Necron faction. Never gets old. Alright, we are just blasting these ribcage openings with white. And then I think I'm also gonna do like almost like it's a plasma effect, a glowing effect around the top of these robotic entrails, whatever the heck is coming out here. These wires and stuff. Doesn't have to be super clean. And then let's try to get a little bit more inside the Gauss rifle. we'll see how that looks once I've had a chance to put some color on top of it. Ooh, that is just too much paint. Alright. Alright, that will have to do. Alright, not bad. This probably would have been a lot closer to my goal timeline if not for the massive audio failure. So we'll see if I remember that or notice it for the next one. But yeah. Meantime, thanks for joining, and look forward to sharing some more in the coming weeks. Goal is going to be to keep this regular schedule. Trying to get started Wednesdays at 7ish, and just kind of see how we go. But yeah, I will post updates on Instagram whenever it's relevant. Just reminders and stuff. So you'll see stuff on there. But thanks for watching, and catch you next time.